My microphone today is shower curtain liner clips, complete in package, that we purchased at some point in the past. I couldn't say when. And somehow they wound up in a box with all my video games. And thus they are in my video game collection room. So this was a good purchase. Whatever our original reason for purchasing it, totally valid. We sure did get a lot of use out of these. We've probably had them for like years. Like, they were legitimately in a box that came from our old house, and we've lived in this house for 3 years. So these are a minimum of 3 years old. Good purchase. Recommend the OXO Good Grips. Good purchase. All right. Welcome to What Am I Playing? Another Spooktober one. All right, so let's get into it. Oh, you like my shirt? It's Pixies. I saw them in concert. It was fun. All right, what am I playing? All right, so Spooktober stuff first, starting with Alan Wake Remastered, which I am still playing. I mentioned last time that the game is it's got a little bit of that 2010s jank that I don't know, you have to kind of be in the mood for it, and I will admit I'm not terribly in the mood for it. And it's kind of funny. This is an aside, but I've been seeing some of the trailers drop, or the new extended gameplay footage, I should say, of Alan Wake 2, the sequel that's coming out. And it's got a lot of the same crap that Alan Wake 1 had that I would classify as 2010 jank. So I'm not sure that they're really improving much. I mean, I'll wait and see, and I will probably get it because I do like Alan Wake, jank aside. But I might go into it with, appropriate expectations. But anyway, back to Alan Wake 1 Remastered. It's been a lot of fun. I've been enjoying it. It's funny. It's been a decade since I played this, and a lot of it I apparently don't remember. I remember there being a bit where I wander in the forest, and then I get to spoilers if you haven't played the game, but I get to this wellness center, which then gives kind of a like a spooky sanitarium vibe. And I remember a lot, or at least I think I remember a lot of the game taking place in that wellness center. But I've been playing it now for I don't know how many hours, and I am nowhere near the wellness center. And I know that it's coming because my character keeps talking about it, but I'm nowhere near it. And instead, I'm just spending a lot of time going through the forest. And I don't remember there being this much forest, like, gameplay, like running through the forest, and all of a sudden, the shadow guys are spawning, and you got to deal with them. And then you move to another area in the forest, and more shadow guys. I don't remember that it having this much forest gameplay. But no, I mean, little nitpicks and little uh, uh, jabs at potential repetitiveness of the forest areas. I am enjoying the game. It's a lot of fun. And, it's a good start to Spooktober. So, Alan Wake Remastered. Good stuff. I switched the microphone stand. The shower clip, the shower curtain liner clips, they were making too much crackling sound. I went back and listened to what I was recording. I'm a professional. Anyway, it was making too much crackling sound, so I switched to this. This might still make too much crack-a-lack-a-lackling sound, but if it does, I'm not going to fix it. That's because I'm not as much of a professional as you might want me to be. I am who I am. All right. So what's the next game? The next game that I'm playing is Phobos Dare .gb, which was a limited run physical edition of a Game Boy game, little independent Game Boy game. I've been playing it on my Analog Pocket. Not this one. This one just came yesterday. This is the limited glow in the dark edition that came yesterday, and as you can see, I haven't even pulled the little battery tab out, or taken the screen protector off, or gotten another screen protector. I should get a screen protector for this because I have one for the other. Sorry, didn't mean to get off on that aside, but this seems like the appropriate Analog Pocket to play this on because it's all spooky and green. But regardless, Phobos Dare .gb. So what is this game? It's supposed to be psychological horror, but so far I've not really encountered anything that I would say is very scary. But I mean, you look at the cover there. That guy's kind of spooky. Got like I don't know, blackness seeping out of his eyes, and not like darkness, darkness, like spooky void. But yeah, it's vaguely a platformer with some adventure elements to it. At least that's what I have encountered so far. Maybe it's going to change up a bit. It also seems to have some vaguely Metroidvania moments to it. Although I wouldn't really classify it as a Metroidvania, it definitely has a vibe. It definitely has some areas where it's like, oh, hey, in order to get through this door, you've got to go do a bunch of stuff and then, get something that unlocks the door, not necessarily a key. So it definitely does have that vibe, even though it's not strictly a Metroidvania. As far as the story is concerned, you are I think you're a scientist, and you did some sort of experiments in the past, but it's pretty vague as to what you did. And I can't really tell if the experiments you did were good or bad. It seems pretty vague so far. But he basically discovers this haunted Game Boy cartridge. Because of course he did. And then he, the box says he must face his fears and relive the terrifying nightmares of his past. I will say I haven't gotten to the terrifying nightmares yet. But what's there is pretty fun. And I do keep hoping that it's going to get scary at some point. But it's a Game Boy game. You gotta, lower your expectations as far as horror games are concerned. It's not going to be, scary. It's going to be creepy. But there are 2D horror games that are, legitimately freaky. Eversion on Steam is one that comes to mind, which, now that I think about it, I wonder if an E-version playthrough is warranted this Spooktober. It might be. I really love E-version. Anyway, back to Phobos Dare. It isn't. It hasn't gotten to that level of creepiness that something like your version has. But I'm going to give it a chance. I'm going to keep playing it. I'm going to beat it. It's my understanding it's not a terribly long game, so maybe I won't even talk about it next week. I might have finished it. But it's good. Phobos Dare, GB for Game Boy. Great little game. All right, what's the next one? So the next one is over here. I'm going to switch things up and put them over here. Golden Light. I'm playing this on Steam. Golden Light is an interesting game. It is horror, and it definitely has all of the same trappings of horror. It has. It also has like a retro aesthetic. It's almost like they're trying to go for an idealized PlayStation 1 aesthetic. It kind of has that blocky, chunky 3D graphics, but with higher fidelity models than you could possibly have achieved on the PlayStation 1. So that's why I say it's kind of like an idealized PlayStation 1 game. It's a roguelike game where each run, or each level, I should say, because your runs, it does keep track of your progress. But each level is procedurally generated. And, I mean, so far, at least, the loop is pretty simple. You go out into the level that you're in, and you find X number of keys, where X is whatever, hidden throughout the procedurally generated level. Come back, use the keys to unlock the gate guarding the elevator to the next level, and rinse and repeat, with some minor story stuff sprinkled throughout. I don't know if there's going to be much of a payoff in the story department, because it just seems like a game that is more focused on the gameplay, less on the story. Although there's a lot of notes strewn throughout the game, but they kind of more, rather than paint a picture of a story, they kind of paint like a creepiness vibe. They kind of paint a picture of just the ambiance of the horror rather than the horror itself, which I'm not saying is a bad thing. I'm just saying, don't go into this expecting a brilliantly written game. Don't go into this expecting something like BioShock or System Shock, because you're not going to get it. But what's there is pretty fun. It also runs great on the Steam Deck, which has been awesome. I have played it on desktop, and I've also, dragged my Steam Deck out to the hammock, which, while it's still warm enough to be out there, I am thrilled to be able to use. But yeah, Golden Light is fun. I think you can get it pretty inexpensively on Steam or Fanatical. I think I got it from a Fanatical bundle. In fact, I think it's in a Fanatical bundle right now at the time of this recording. Maybe not when this video goes up, but that's where I got it, I think. And yeah, it's fun. It's a good little horror roguelike game. I recommend it. It's good. It's good fun. All right. Those are the Spooktober games that I'm playing. Now the non-Spooktober games. I'm still playing Baldur's Gate 3. I don't think I need to say much about Baldur's Gate 3. It's... I've already talked about it ad nauseum in the past. And everybody's talking about it. So, really, what do I have to add? I guess the one thing I do have to add is I've been a little frustrated with it lately because it keeps crashing on me in pretty consistent ways. Not reproducible, but consistent. Which, as somebody who's worked in software development for, 30 years? Oh man, I'm old. I realize that consistent bugs that are not reproducible are the most hideous ones to try to debug and figure out why they happen. But that's exactly what's happening with me in Baldur's Gate. I consistently have this scenario where after playing the game for like 30 minutes to 40 minutes or so, if I save too many times and then go back and reload things, if I ever do stuff like that, it will not only crash Baldur's Gate, but it'll like crash my PC. And I don't like that. And it's not that I ever get a specific save that consistently crashes it. It's really more just the act of saving and then reloading, saving and reloading. And after like an hour or so, just the whole system crashes. And it's a hard crash. Like I have to force power down and force power cycle my PC, which is not what I want to do. And it's something that's just been happening pretty much for the last week or two. And at every single play session when I sit down to play Baldur's Gate, it happens. Which is a little frustrating. It doesn't happen on the Steam Deck, and I do play it occasionally on the Steam Deck. But the Steam Deck, the fidelity is just so much worse than playing it on my desktop with my super powerful NVIDIA graphic card that I can't remember what it is. It's whatever the current one was as of like about a year ago. Or the top one was like about a year ago. But yeah, other than the frequent crashes, wow, that is really hard to say with this orthodontia in my mouth. I hate this stuff. Other than the frequent crashes, it's been a lot of fun, and I really, really am enjoying it. And I'm not going to let these silly little crashes prevent me from finishing the game. As far as where I am in the game, I'm still in the Underdark. There's like so much to do down there. I've gotten into the Drow? I think it's the Drow. Or the Drugger? I only really have kind of a passing knowledge that's like about 30 years old by this point of Dungeons and Dragons. So a lot of this lore, it's like I've seen it for the first time, even though I encountered it before. But whatever it is, you find them down there, and they've got one of the... It's not chosen one. What do they call them? The people who are able to talk to the Absolute? Whatever. He's like buried in rubble. And I'm down there. But the thing is as opposed to, I should just like continue and like dig the guy out or kill the guy in the rubble, whatever my choice might be. I think I'm going to kill the guy. He's not a friend of mine. But I should do that. But there's like so much other content to do, so many other side activities to do. And that's the problem I have with these big open world RPGs like this, is that I'm like, I should go do all of these other things before doing this thing that is very clearly going to push the story forward. But then as I'm going and doing all of the other things, I find other things to do. And you just get this like recursive addition of new tasks to do that makes it so you never make any real progress. Unless you're willing to just ignore all those other things, and I can't ignore those. There might be something really fun out there or really useful. I'm going to do it. Anyway, that's where I am. I don't have to talk anymore about Baldur's Gate 3. It's a good game. Go get it. All right, the last game I'm going to talk about is something I believe I've talked about it before, and that's Dome Keeper. This is a little independent game. The basic premise is that you crash on a planet, you have yourself a little dome, and you have to go mine for resources while at the same time defending your dome from hostile alien life forms. It's a little roguelite, and it's one of these games that has like really simple controls. It's basically just the analog stick and then your button for interacting with things. And it's a good game. I've talked about it before. I enjoyed it. Plays great on the Steam Deck. Plays great on PC. But, I'm still playing it. It's a lot of fun. I have recently completed a run, like successfully, where I didn't die, where I found some specific artifact that you have to find buried down underneath, which allows you to, like, progress the story. I probably would have reached it sooner, but I've been playing it on the recommended difficulty, which I think they call it hardcore, which is pretty hard, I have to be honest. So it has taken me maybe a week or two to get to the point where I've actually completed it. And I don't play it every night. I don't play it constantly, so we're talking like maybe 4 or 5 hours over the course of a week. But it's fun. I'm enjoying it, and if you're at all interested in yet another roguelite with some interesting elements, check out Dome Keeper. It's a blast. Oh, it's also written in it's using the Godot open source game engine, which I've started noticing more and more games using. I think Brotato also used the Godot engine. I keep meaning to check it out. Somebody who's also worked in software development and who has developed games in the past, although that's not what I do right now. I'm always interested in open source software, and I'm always interested in open source game engines. Like, that sort of stuff is my jam. I love open source game engines. Like, back in the day, I contributed source code to SDL, libSDL, back in the 90s, which is not a game engine, but, it's something that it's a low-level graphic library that, for a time, was used in a lot of games. And it still might be used, but it's more back-end. Anyway, Dome Keeper. It's fun. I think that's it. I got nothing else. I've got no clever outro. So, Pixies. Wave of mutilation. Goodbye.